Welcome back to the Power Public YouTube channel. Today's video we're going to be showing you how to do some fiberglass repairs to your go-kart seat. Welcome back to the Power Public YouTube channel. Today's video I've got a great friend of mine, expert in fiberglass repairs. And his name's Nick and he's from NikStik Surfboards down in Victoria. And he's going to be showing us how to repair this go-kart seat.
Hey mate, how you going?
Good mate. Welcome to the Power Public YouTube
Thanks
channel.
for having me here.
You're welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Nick.
Well, I'm from Victoria, the cold state.
Yeah.
And I've done a lot of fiberglass repairs, surfboard making for close to 30 years. Mould making, carbon fibre repairs on cars, boats, you name it. So yeah, this sort of stuff here is right up my alley.
So guys, what we've got here is a Tillet racing seat. Now they are from the factory a super light duty, super flexible, soft seat. Unfortunately this one here has got a little bit of a crack. You can't quite see it on the camera there, but we're going to be repairing it just here. So Nick's going to step us through the process on how to prepare and repair this seat here today. So Nick, what's the first step when we go to repair a go-kart seat like this?
So we generally have to key the surface and make sure it's fairly scratched up. We use an 80 grit sandpaper. And that's just so that when the resin and the fiberglass go on there, they're going to bond and not delaminate later on. With the flexing and moving with the cart going around corners, you can actually separate. So we just want to make sure it's really clean and just get it nice and scuffed up.
Alright, so let's go get some supplies to get this job underway. Okay, so we're back from Bunnings and we've got all our supplies. So Nick, step us through what we've just gone and got.
We've basically got a generic fiberglass repair kit, which I'll just go through what's inside it. Righto, so what we've got in the kit, just take the lid off, we've got our hardener, and that's, pop that to the side. We've got a little measuring cup for the hardener. We've got some rubber latex gloves.
Hey, safety never takes a holiday, Nick.
Well, absolutely not in this case. A little disposable brush, 1-inch one, that'll come in handy. We've got our fiberglass chop strand, mixing stick, and last our actual fiberglass resin, which is GPR's general purpose resin, which is found pretty much in any kind of hardware store, Bunnings, Home Hardware, whatever you got. And then of course we've got a pack of sandpaper. This one here is just an 8-piece pack. It's got 80 grit, 120, 180 and 240, which is a really fine one to finish off the job. Some masking tape to do the job, and some I've used here some satin clear, and that's just to seal up our fine scratches at the end to give us a really professional job.
So the first thing we're going to be doing is preparing the seat. So you can see here that the seat's got a little crack in it here, and it's flexing a little bit too much where we've snapped it off when someone stood on it accidentally. Alright,
so we've got our 80 grit sandpaper. All the numbers are pretty much printed on the back of the sheet so you don't get confused. Alright, so I've just cut that into half. We'll just use a small piece like that, that'll do the job. We just basically come into this groove here, start giving it a really nice sand, you can see. Make sure you get right into that groove. So when you are sanding a seat like this, a few of you people will probably say, oh, he hasn't got his dust mask on. You definitely want to be wearing some sort of protection for your lungs. If you're doing it by hand, a little paper one will be fine. If you're using a sander, you're going to get a lot more dust up in the air, so a proper respirator is definitely a good idea. You can always try and do it outside too, and obviously that'll be a little bit safer as well. But all we're going to do is basically just do this by hand now and just give it a good scuff up.
So now that we've pre-sanded the seat ready for some fiberglassing, we're just going to clean it with some acetone.
So we're going to use some acetone here.
So why exactly do you use acetone, Nick?
Acetone is just going to clean the seat. If there's any oils on there or contaminations from anything else that might cause a delamination. So we want to just give that a little bit of a wipe down. Just we'll make sure that we get a nice keyed area and the resin is going to stick like we want it to. That's about all you need to do. You can see
Wow.
see how much dirt that came off straight away.
So you can see here the area that we've prepared with the sandpaper and the acetone over the area we haven't, how much difference there is in the colour. I mean, to look at it, you couldn't really tell, but now that we've cleaned it, it sticks out really, really well.
Righto guys, so step 2 is going to be just masking up the area so that we're not getting resin dripping all over the place, dripping all over the rest of the seat. We want to try to keep the job as clean as we can get it. Good quality masking tape. We're just going to break a couple of pieces off. Righto, so I'm just going to place this underneath it, and that's just going to protect the underneath of the seat.
So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to get the fiberglass matting out and we're going to cut it into the shape of the seat before we mix up the resin.
Okay, so we'll just pop this out of the bag, and it is itchy stuff, and it can be itchy. Some people actually don't find it too itchy, but you just want to try to keep it away from bare skin if you can. You can actually cut this with the scissors for a complex shape like this. That's exactly what we're going to do, but you can tear it by hand as well. So if you actually just put your finger there, you can actually tear it, and it will tear like that. And having this edge here will come in handy later on. We'll talk about that. But for this stage now, we can just basically place that on top like that. We can just roughly mark where we want to get this to go around, like so. And you know, we don't have to be too accurate here, but just to have a bit of an idea. And we'll just chop that piece out. So you can see here, you can just basically place that in like that. And then this little piece here, we can use that as a second layer just in that cracked area. And I can actually just use a piece like that. That's going to work really well. One point to make about tearing it versus cutting it with a pair of scissors. If I was to put that on like this, you're going to end up with a line and you're going to see it once the repair's done. So the idea having it torn is versus having that straight edge. You'll see this straight edge once the repair's done, whereas if it's like this, it's going to actually blend into the seat. Righto, so we've got these two pieces here. That's all we need for the repair. So next step now is to mix up some resin in the cup.
The next thing we're going to do is mix up our resin and hardener.
Okay, so the next step is we've got the catalyst or hardener, and generally 1 to 3% per 100 ml of resin. Just double check on the container. It'll tell you here your ratio. Generally, if you're putting more hardener, it'll go off faster. If it's a hotter day, it'll go off faster again. So you want to around 20 degrees Celsius and about 3 ml in that much resin will be about right. Right, so I'm just going to use this little measuring cup here. It actually has all the mils written on the side, starting at 5 mils, going right up to a whopping 30 mil. We're not going to use anywhere near that much. Probably about 40 drops, and I can just squeeze that in.
So what happens if you put in too much hardener, Nick?
So if the ratio's out from the recommendations on the tin, the resin will actually go off really fast, and it causes an exothermic reaction, which, believe it or not, it can actually catch fire. But if it doesn't catch fire and you do the job, it will become super brittle, almost like glass, and you'll lose your strength properties with the repair. So you definitely want to make sure your catalyst amount is in that sort of realm where it needs to be in that percentage range. Okay guys, so I'm just going to tip the hardener into the resin, and then generally now we've got to work reasonably fast, again depending on the outside temperature. Well, we just want to make sure we mix this really well. You don't want to have any stringy sections that aren't catalyzed, otherwise they just won't go off. So give it a really good, I will say around 30 seconds to a minute. A really good mix up, and sometimes you can actually see the colour changing. As soon as you put the catalyst in, I'm not sure if the camera will pick this up, but that blue tinge has now gone green. And what will happen as this reaction moves along, it'll go darker green and then it'll start going brown. And when it goes brown, you're in DEFCON 5 mode. That means you want to get that thing on there because it's going to start turning jelly. Now we're just going to get our brush, we're going to dip it in, and we're going to paint the area that we're going to put the cloth on. Don't be stingy with the resin. And then once we've done that now, we can actually put the small piece on first over the crack which is just there. And we'll just pop that on like that. And then what you want to do is dab a little bit of resin on there, but you want to, once you've actually coated, you'll notice the strands of the fiberglass are starting to go clear. And what I'll do here, a lot of people make this mistake, they'll just paint it like it's a paintbrush putting paint on, but you want a dabbing motion, a stabbing motion like this. And what that's doing, it's actually releasing all the air bubbles, and it's also getting the cloth completely clear. You don't want to have cloth that's not impregnated with the resin, otherwise again it'll become a weak joint and it won't actually be an effective repair. So you can see that dabbing motion that I'm doing, and you can already tell now just by looking at the repair that it's totally clear. So that's now ready for the next layer.
So now that we have waited for the resin to go off, it's time to start the sanding process.
Righto, so what we're going to do now is just remove the tape. So if you have a look here, I've taken the tape off and the edge here is slightly rubbery. It hasn't gone really super brittle there, but we might be able to just trim this off with a razor. We'll have a crack. We'll just see whether this works or not. Yeah, there we go. So because it's only a couple of layers, and that'll just help us with the sanding process, that we're not, spending hours on hours. We're ready basically now to sand.
So now that we've prepared the seats, cut the fiberglass, mixed the resin, applied the glass, and now we've sanded it and cleaned it, it's ready for paint.
What we've got here is just a satin clear, and that is just going to seal up that area and just give it a little bit more of a professional look to it. I mean, you could actually just leave it like this, it's quite smooth. The last grade of sandpaper was 240, but this will just make it look a little bit better. Okay, so we'll just give this a couple of coats of clear. You don't have to you don't want to put it on too heavy, otherwise it'll just drip everywhere. So a nice light coat like that. Let that flash off for about 5-10 minutes. Put one more final coat on, and the job is done.
There you have it. That's how we do the fiberglass repair NikStik style. Thanks heaps to Nick Davenport for coming in and showing us how to get the repairs done. You can check him out on Instagram and Facebook at NikStik Surfboard. The link will be in the description below. If you've got any questions, please leave it in the comment sections below. Also too, you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Power Republic, or you can go to our fantastic website www.powerrepublic.com.au to get yourself a t-shirt or a brand new Tiller racing seat. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. So come on in, Nick.
Hey mate.
Hey Nick.
How are you?
Good mate. Glad to have you here on the Power Republic YouTube channel.
Glad to be glad. Glad.
There's a whole bunch of glad.
2003, and then
cut. Give it a second, hands in. Alright, perfect. Well, why don't we just jump straight into it, Nick? What's the first step in if you're going to go to repair this fiberglass?
Oh, look, basically with a seat like this, it's probably made out of if there's any oils or any contaminants on the fiberglass, you might have a delamination.
Delamination. We're in the nation. Are we?
Let's just ask that again. How do we use that?
Because we got the notion.
Shout of dreams.
Okay.
I know, I was like...
Sebastian! 3, 2, 1. So
Right, 3, 2, 1.
you go.
You go. So give the can a good shake up. Good 30 seconds. I've already shaken it a little bit already.
Yes.
No, I was going to get some rags.
Alright, we'll give that a crack.
Great.
So I can't get the
Should we
lid
put
up.
the- So there you have it. That's how you do fiberglass repairs the NikStik style. Now NikStik no, cut.